Hello, everybody. Jeff Mason and Rick Diana here with SimpleBiz360 podcast, and I am so excited about this. I'm going to let Rick just kick off and tell you a little bit about himself, and then we'll get this show underway. Rick, welcome.
Jeff, it took a year.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a kid from the Bronx, New York. It's one of the 5 boroughs of New York City for the folks out in St. Louisville, where we are today. But I understand you got such a great reach of people from all over the world.
Yeah, we do. We're in about 10 countries now, 12 countries.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was about 10, my dad moved us out to the country, Cresskill, New Jersey, and you and I were sort of neighbors in Bergen County.
Sure.
I now live in a town called Chester, New Jersey, in Morris County, which is north central New Jersey, about 40 miles west of New York City.
Okay.
So in a lot of ways, I can call myself if I'm in St. Louis, I'll say I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
But I've been a New Jersey resident for many, many years.
Awesome. So, and what's your name of your company? Is
Trinitas Talent Management is the name of the company.
Great.
I'm a talent agency, and I help individuals, find out who they are and to monetize themselves, to have them create the value that they deserve.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get it. We're going to get into this, folks. This is really exciting, and it's really an honor to have Rick here. Rick and I know each other from about 1984. We worked in New York City together in different offices. I was in Manhattan's downtown. Rick was in Manhattan's midtown, and we worked in the thought processing division of a company called Lanier Business Products. So that's where we got to know each other, and we've kept in touch on and off, and most recently really have gotten to know each other much better in the last year. And just so excited. Rick is on a 4-week trip out here. He made sure he stopped into St. Louis, and we are going to do a really cool 2-part series. So we're going to do part A this week and part B for next week. And it's really to take a look at the job opportunity, the job market, the job acquisition process, and ways for people to make themselves more unique, more attractive to the job market. So we're going to take a look at today, kind of look at the side of the fence or the side of the table that is the company side. And then for next week's podcast, we're going to look at the talent agent side and what Rick can really do to help equip people to be a more successful job seeker, and some really cool stuff in store. So it is going to be, they're going to be 2, probably over an hour each of these interviews, but really it's going to be something that's a tool where you can look back on. So we're going to put this on Career Corner on our website, SimpleBiz360.com, on Career Corner. Rick's going to have it on his website as well. And we're just going to have this up there for many years for people to dive into and get some self-help. If you love the show and you haven't subscribed yet, we would love you to subscribe. If you want to just hit that you'll see that favicon in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, that little pinwheel. Just hover your cursor over it. That takes you to YouTube, and that'll allow you to sign up and subscribe. You have to be signed into YouTube to do it. Or if you want to listen, we're on 27 listening platforms. So all the guys that you can imagine: Amazon, iHeart, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple. So, any rate, we are going to get going and talk about exciting stuff here. So first things first, Rick and Dietz, Matt, thank you for setting everything up. The sound is great today. So we just really want to ask you, how did you come up with this name, Trinitas Talent Management? How'd you?
I want to ask you how you came up with the word favicon.
It's really a term. It's a little.
I've been listening to you for a year now and watching for a year now. Favicon, would it be?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just your little social media symbol, that little round symbol that people can identify your brand with. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Trinitas Talent Management, how did you come up with that?
The Trinitas name?
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. I had a company previous, but it wasn't really a company that I had branded.
Okay.
I had made a decision it was time to brand what I do.
Okay.
So I needed to choose carefully. And as a Catholic man, the Trinity is important to me, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. But Trinity was a word that I thought many other companies may be using.
Yeah.
So I looked at the word Trinitas, and it was unusual that anybody had used that there was a healthcare organization somewhere in New Jersey, but nobody quite like what I'm doing. So I went with Trinitas. And then from there, I decided, what am I going to call it? Talent management, talent agency. So I went with Trinitas Talent Management. and the word management and agent, they're somewhat interchangeable.
Sure. Okay.
Depending on where a person is and what they're looking to do.
Great. Now, what is your website, by the way? Is it
TrinitasTalent.com?
Okay, TrinitasTalent.com. Okay, and we'll have it on there too on the YouTube channel. If you want to go in there, they'll get it, and we'll post it on our website as well. So very cool.
And you'll hear also about how I like the number 3.
Okay.
In secular ways, why the number 3 can be very powerful in presenting oneself, in making a case, justifying a position.
Interesting.
Writing an English composition when you're in the 4th grade, and what those numbers 3 to mean. So we'll have a chance to talk about that as we go along.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, so, we all change with our age, and, we're approximately the same age. What gets you out of bed every morning in 2021? What drives you to do what you do?
In 2021, well, I think in the year 2021, if you're not interested in getting out of bed, that's going to be a problem, right?
That's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I mean, if 2020 wasn't a strange year, 2021 is strange in its own way, right?
For sure. Absolutely.
So I am an early riser.
Okay.
I think my natural go to bed time is 9:30. And for many years, I kind of fought that.
Yeah.
Because I had work to do. I had a proposal to knock out. I had a client to meet. But definitely over COVID, with a little bit more time indoors, I'm like, I think, honey, I'm going upstairs.
Yeah, there you go.
And if I hit the hay at 9:15, 9:30, but it's better. Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. I think someone very famous once said that.
I don't know who that is. But
I think that was Benjamin Franklin.
Was it Benjamin?
Yeah, Benjamin Franklin. We're going to give it to him.
So how is your daily motivation changed as opposed to 20 years ago? What got you out of bed 20 years ago?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I was working for the man, as they say, right? Working for the big corporation, and enjoyed all of it. Having the title, the team, the responsibility, the territory, a sales territory, the product, the suite of products. Loved every minute of it. And so I felt like I owed the organization that was providing all these things for me that I can now provide to clients, all of me. All of me, right? And to get to work and to make it happen and to, penetrate the sales territory, to develop my team, et cetera. 20 years later, it's a little different because I'm more of an independent entity.
Right.
And I feel that rather than serving what it is the company has to offer, it's really my own attributes that I'm bringing to the table to help others really transform their lives.
So you still have it's a different team. You had a team back then. You worked for a company. You had associates, and now you're on your own. But you have distinctive teams. I mean, you've got teams of people you're working with and trying to help develop, and you've got employers that you're also working to find candidates.
Yes, I still work with a very select number of clients that call upon me to help them find talent. No question about it.
So let's stick on that right now, because I think some of the listening and viewing audience might be saying, okay, gosh, I thought I would have used an executive recruiter to help me find a position. Explain for the group, what's the difference between a talent agent and an executive recruiter and that model of business model, if you will?
Well, the best way I can describe it is in the world of business professionals, you don't really hear talent agent mentioned very much, right? Talent agent is usually for the actor. For the athlete.
Correct.
For the musician, for the band.
Right, exactly, 100%.
So the executive recruiter represents the employer. So the executive recruiter works for the employer, the entity that has assigned to you the task of finding a particular talent. And of course, when you find that talent, they compensate you for that effort. A talent agent represents the individual. It's flipping the script.
So you just work for individuals. You don't work for companies, or you do work for companies as well too.
There still are some select companies that I work with that I've built these relationships over, 10, 15, 20 years.
Sure.
When they lean on me to say that they need to find a particular, I have a pipeline of talent.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to say, I think I know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can help you out. But in the gig economy, and we've talked about this, there have been a lot of changes in really the way the market operates.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If you're looking for opportunity, is that opportunity dependent upon what the corporation says that they're looking for?
Right.
Or are you the leader of the band?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But when it comes to working on behalf of the employer, there are certain things, obviously, that those corporations are looking for in talent. And it hasn't really changed. 2020, 2021. I mean, the attributes that corporations are still looking for. And why has that changed? Not at all.
So what, and thank you for that. So what caused you to kind of, transition yourself to a different side of the table where you're kind of nestling up with the talent and saying, hey, I think I can help you get, what do they get out of a relationship building process with you?
About 15 years ago, I thought I ended up on a short end of a stick in a situation. I was probably a little bit resentful of the way I was treated in the way I separated with that particular company, because I was doing a really good job, but a new management team had come in, and it really didn't matter if I was doing a good job or not. They weren't comfortable with me because I wasn't their hire.
Right.
And I sat down behind my computer and started writing a manifesto. Some people say it's not a great word to use the word memo, like Jerry Maguire wrote the memo that got him fired. Well, I was already fired, so I had nothing to lose by writing this memo. And I found myself writing a series of ideas and what it means for an individual to break out of themselves without depending on what it is the enterprise says they need in their organization, but instead say, I'm the talent. I'm the leader of the rock and roll band. I have a certain skill set. How can I monetize this?
Right.
Because you'll find, Jeff, that most people, when they are reaching out and looking for the capital J job, right? The job that comes with the salary and the bonus and the benefits and the boss and the organization that you're in and who you're reporting to and so on and so forth. That is what really corporate America has been built on the last 50, 60, 75 years. You and I grew up that way.
Absolutely.
Right? And we enjoyed it. We prospered in that world.
Yep.
We saw what happened with unemployment last year and how, 10, 20, 40, 50, 60,000 people are out of work, and some have never really gotten back exactly where they were previous.
Yeah.
What do you do? You're going to apply online and just take a shot at some job description that's out there where you're going to end up competing against 2,500 people?
Right.
It's not really a sustainable situation for somebody in their late 30s, early 40s, early 50s. If you want to advance within your career, now corporate America still has tremendous opportunity, don't get me wrong. I offer an alternative way to look at what it is that you bring to the table.
Okay. So when you're, and what I think you're getting at here is, I think that we all have, let's face it, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're all created uniquely by our Creator, and we all have things that are very special gifts that we have, and we don't always know what they are. We can't always blossom them. We can't always bring them out into the light. And you, nestling up next to somebody who wants to harness that and be able to project it, you kind of help bring that out and let them help develop them to see what their unique capabilities are. Would that be a fair way to say it?
Great. I'm really glad you brought that up. So some people will call me a coach.
Okay.
Of course I coach. Don't we all?
Yeah.
Right? But not the capital C coach. The capital C coach is a trained professional, maybe who has a degree in psychology, has certifications in coaching, and has got maybe a certain patience and empathy that I don't generally have, to sit you down and say, so tell me, tell me about your the first love that you lost, or tell me about the first time you got cut from a team, or when you didn't get the promotion that you thought you were getting, and you create this story about yourself. It's creating self-awareness. I work with people who already have tremendous self-awareness. They know who they are. They're coached up people, and they know where they want to go. But even those folks sometimes don't always know what they bring to the table that makes them that special individual that you just mentioned. How many things do you really need to be unique about in order to, well, listen, Coach Pete, somebody that you've spoken to, when we were, back in the day when I was in the Bronx, if I heard, so Stephen, who do you think you are? God's gift to the world. That was a negative connotation. So Coach Pete says, we're all God's gift to the world. Of course we are. We're unique. Well, how are you unique? Are you basing your uniqueness on the job description or the company that you're working with or the products that you're selling? That's your job. That's not what makes you who you are. So many people over the years, when they realize that now they're out on their own, or for whatever reason, their company relocated to a state that, the family's not interested in going to, what do? Do you find another capital J job? Or do you work from the inverse and say, this is what I bring to the table? Well, what are the things that you bring to the table? If the stock rose 45% over the 10 years that you were with that firm, are you taking credit for that? Can you take credit for that? Can you quantify that? And by the way, once you leave that firm, is the firm still not prospering by what you brought to the table, even though you're long gone? And when I ask questions like that to people, they think about it and say, yeah, if it wasn't for me finding, the $5 million gap, I wouldn't have gotten the promotion, or we wouldn't have been able to go public, or whatever it is that the organization was able to do. But people don't get compensated that way necessarily, unless you're a top dog, obviously, and you're getting paid on the gross profits and the movement of the stock in your company. If you're just a middle manager person, you're going to get some sort of bonus that says, attaboy, you did a great job.
So, okay. So I'm glad you said this, because what you're also articulating is that, there is tangible evidence in everyone's career portfolio that if you were an achiever and you did contribute to, success, and you did attribute to becoming more streamlined, becoming more profitable, becoming larger in sales revenue, or whatever that attribute may be that you were part of, you need to be able to articulate that and bake that into your, into how you project yourself to a company. Now, let me ask you, are the companies that you're familiar with, are people on the interviewing side of the desk, not the interview, but the interviewing side of the desk, do they love hearing people accentuate those successes and what they were part of and what they brought to the table?
Jeff, I think people on the other side of the table crave to hear these things.
Okay. Do you think most people that are the interviewee are timid and afraid to state some of those things?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think they lack ability to prove that they? I mean, there's a lot of people that say they did things, and then we wonder, that sounds like pie in the sky. I mean, do they have to then be able to prove it?
Well, to answer your question, yes, I think they're maybe afraid, and they don't really have the ammunition, because what they're speaking to is the job description. And let's face it, there's a job behind every job description. But as the interviewee, as the candidate, you have to be able to project who you are. Who is the person behind the resume? Right? What is it? How did you get here? So it's about the business outcomes. And so what you need to really be able to do is, when they're looking at that so-called resume and what you did, that's a basis for the beginning of the conversation. But it's on you. It's not on the interviewer. It's on you to be able to speak in their terms. So what does that boil down to? You need to do your homework.
Bingo. You
need to do your research. And we talked before about engagement rings, and the one fella that offered his fiance 5 different engagement rings. He's a star. He's a star, right? Which one do you want, honey? Oh my God. So he did his research. He must have. This was a news item that was on a couple of days ago. So you got to do your research, and the listener really doesn't care what you did at your last company. It's interesting. It's coffee talk. What they want to hear is how you're going to change what they do.
Bingo.
So I use this often. We're all tuned into that radio station, WIFM. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
We're human beings. We want to know what it is the person on the other side is going to bring to the table, whether it's for me, my organization, the company. Of course, we love hiring people we like. But once we get to the point where we like them, now we need them to convince us.
Yeah.
So if you haven't done your homework about that organization, if all you've done is go to their website and read the job description, that ain't going to do the trick. Yeah. You have to do almost a SWOT analysis. Who's their competition? What are others saying about them? And know what the gaps are. What are the problems? Did you look at the annual report? Because the annual report usually says somewhere along the line where we really didn't get there this year, and these are the reasons why.
Yeah.
Now, when you meet with that interviewer, they need to know what you're thinking you can do to move the company forward. So if you're there and just being like the old days, you shell answer man, answering questions about what you did in your own job, and you're not able to move the conversation to what you know they really want to hear. Because let's face it, a lot of these people who are interviewing, they're not professional interviewers. They're put in a situation to help the organization attract talent. They have a job. Interviewing you is probably not their main job.
Okay.
So you have to kind of help them along. You have to help them make a decision.
Okay.
And the way to do that is to demonstrate to them how the skills that you have are transferable and speak in their language.
Yeah, interesting. So thank you for that answer and insight. You know, back in the day when, you know, annual reports, we didn't have, back when Rick and I grew up in sales, we didn't have the access to internet and everything. So we would have to contact the investor relations division of a company that was in our territory. We would get an annual report sent to our home. And invariably, you would read that annual report in the president's letter, in the letter from the CEO, whatever. You'd always find the goals and objectives and for that upcoming year, and you'd always find why those are goals and objectives, generally tied to what didn't happen or happened incorrectly in a previous year. So the ability to walk in someone's door and say, hey, I'm here, and in a kind of a shotgun way say, you know, this is what I can help you with, and you address those points in the annual report, you're showing that person that you've spent time researching and that now you're able to mold your abilities to fit those goals and objectives like a piece in a puzzle, if you will. And so I think that's really important to say. So what you really, and I like what you said, the onus is on the person. So what's really happening in today's world is that it's the responsibility shifts to that person to be able to lead that interviewer on sometimes and equip them with information they might not be asking for. Correct?
Absolutely. You're doing them a favor. You're making the engagement easier and more interesting, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And gig economy. For those of you who don't know, now, we talk about that quite a bit. And again, there may be people listening to this, but in 2021, a gig economy basically is a 1099. You're hired as a contractor. You're part-timing. You're doing special project work. It's maybe not a full-time employee relationship that like a traditional that gives you the benefits and the so on and so forth. So and we're in this gig economy big time. And so how does that mold the energy and the output and the direction of somebody looking for a job? How does that change that flow of trying to look for a job?
You've got to have a certain level of confidence, okay, back to what I was saying before, that where you've had a record of success, where when you're meeting with an interviewer, there are times when you say, I was able to accomplish this. And there are times when you say, we were able to accomplish this. But I would say in the gig economy, there's got to be a little more I than we.
Yeah, right, because you're on your, yeah, sure.
Now, you want to be known, like for instance, I'm independent. I have a team of people that I call upon. I have partners. There are people that 20 people I can call today. and say, hey, I need your opinion on something, right? That's a team.
Yeah.
These are people where I give right back to them, right? So you have to have that, again, that ecosystem of folks. So back to your question, Jeff, you have to quantify what it is that is on that resume. And I'm saying there are numbers on that resume. There are things that you did. Are you really owning it, though? Or are you a little bashful? What did you do to help them do that, right? If you're an athlete and you're a free agent and it's time to move on to another team, what is it that you're bringing forth to that new team so that you could aspire to the biggest contract in history? Well, as a ball player, let's say a pitcher, you need to know what your ERA is. You need to know what your win-loss percentage is. You need to know how you fare at night games versus day games. If you're a football running back, what are your yards per carry?
Yeah.
What are your yards after the catch if you're catching the ball out? If you don't have this information, you're not that interesting to the team that may want to hire you. A business professional has no lack of those numbers. They have to take an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, look at it and say, what did I really accomplish? And not be bashful about, if it weren't for me, the company would not have fill in the blank. If it weren't for me, the company weren't able to fill in the blank. If it wasn't for me, the team would have folded. If it wasn't for the project that I led, we would have not integrated properly with that acquisition, et cetera, et cetera. If it wasn't for these things, what would have happened? Now, you're more like, well, if the bassist of the band doesn't show up for the concert, there ain't no concert.
Yeah.
So what's your role?
Yeah, interesting. So the quantification process, do you see a lot of people that you work with not understanding that they have to not be bashful and to quantify things?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
I think I'm going to go back to the three things. You have to know what those three things that you do really well, better than anybody.
Okay.
And I've gone through this, and I'm sure you've gone through it too. As a matter of fact, about 4 or 5 years ago, I took this personality assessment called Clifton 34 Strengths. I think Gallup owns the company. It's a very simple, straightforward personality assessment. And in my case, it validated a lot of the things why I felt that talent agency would be perfect timing for what was happening in the economy and in society. Because things like my ability to activate others, my ability to maximize people's talents, my connectedness, so we're all coming up, right? So if someone were to say to me, what are the three things that you do better than anybody? I'll say, well, I'm an excellent executive recruiter. Come on, Rick, I'm the best. Well, the best? I'm 99% better. Or I'm better than 99% of the people. So you'd have to interview 100 people to find someone better than me. You have to have a little bit of that confidence.
Yeah.
There's always someone who can jump higher and run faster, right? But remember when you took your SATs or whatever it was that you took and you got 98th percentile in English, right? That was something you patted yourself on the back, that you were better than 98% of your peer group in that area. And you ran with that. Maybe it's what inspired you to be an English major in college.
Yeah.
Or in math or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So now if you take the second thing that you're better than 99% of the people and take a third thing and mix it up, there's nobody like you on the face of the earth. So what are those things? So for me, it's agency for people to get them to a point to realize that they are a walking, talking cash register.
Interesting.
That it's not about the salary that the company wants to offer you, about the problems that you can fix and the business outcomes that can change the trajectory of a company. Executive recruitment, and I'm a power networker. What's a power networker? So what I'll say to somebody is, if you were to engage with me, mi casa es su casa. My network is your network. But one of the things I do better than anybody, well, 99% of the people, is I help activate your network better than you can activate yourself. It's pretty interesting. But that's more about the talent agency. We'll talk about more of that.
That's an attention getter, though. Yeah. So those are the three things. So you really advocate that. And is the company sitting on the other side of the table? I mean, this is music to their ears. They want it. They want to hear this distinguishing language coming out of somebody interviewing. Is, in your opinion?
You mean someone who's being interviewed for a position?
Yeah.
Yeah, because where that's going to go is, I have your resume and you have the job description. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's the lowest common denominator. Right? You've got to make that come alive.
Yeah.
So
okay.
If it's just about the resume and it's just about the job description, then after they meet with 8 people like you, the question is, what makes you unique? And if you can't detour the conversation a little bit and help them make a decision about you, then they're going to have 10 people that all look pretty good.
Yep.
And then it becomes a game of chance.
Okay. Okay. So very interesting. So do you think that people should they come to the interview equipped with ways to prove that they've done some of these things? Or, if you're identifying these 3 things are my standout points, and is that person on the other side of the desk looking for evidence right there at that juncture to see that you're not lying, that you're telling the truth? Or
no, I don't think they are.
Okay.
I think it's up to you to set the expectation.
Okay.
So many people that I interact with in just regular everyday conversation, hey, I've got an opportunity for a second interview with ABC Corporation. And I'll ask simple questions like, who are you meeting with? Well, they didn't give me the name yet. So you don't know who you're meeting with yet. You should know just for knowing, right?
Yeah.
And how long is the meeting going to be? And how many people are going to be at the meeting? And is there going to be a video component to this? Or is it going to be Zoom? Or is it going to be live? Or is it going to be a written test? And they start thinking. And the person that you're meeting with, are they making the decision to hire you? Are you working for that person? Or is it HR versus the actual functional manager that's relying on making this hire? Otherwise, his or her job is not going to get done right. They need to. So what can you do in advance of that meeting to separate yourself from the pack?
Okay, great.
Let's call it an agenda.
Okay.
So they'll send you a note and they'll say, we're going to be calling you with this number. And the meeting is going to be 30 minutes. And thank you so much for your interest in ABC Corporation. You can accept that, or you can maybe raise the bar.
Yeah.
And say, can you tell me a little bit more about the people that I'll be meeting with? What are their positions? When are they making a decision, et cetera? Now, you could ask that question when you're meeting, but I don't think now you're clogging up the 30 minutes, because the 30 minutes is when you want to perform.
Yeah.
So let's get that information in advance. You may get shut out, or they may tell you it's none of your business, or I'll provide that information when we feel like it, but you got nothing to lose. So now you get some information about who you're meeting with, and you've got devices like LinkedIn and Facebook and so forth, where you can do a little homework now to see who you're meeting with. Yeah,
interesting. So, and do, in this gig economy where you are looking towards a lot of people who are independent and who are, project oriented and so forth, are the decision makers, even if you're with a lower level person that's not the actual decision maker, are they filtering this, do you think, through a lens of, wow, this person's taking initiative, this person's a leader because of what they're giving me? Do you think that's accurate?
Well, I think you only have a few opportunities to really demonstrate the kind of worker you're going to be before they hire you.
Yeah.
If they don't hire you, you'll never have the opportunity to demonstrate the kind of worker you're going to be. So when do you have that chance? While you're interviewing.
Yeah.
So what is it that people want in really good workers? I mean, you want work ethic, you want responsiveness, you want follow up and follow through. SimpleBiz360. You know, you're hailing these principles all the time. Follow up, follow through.
Right.
So there are those basic things that you can do to separate yourself from people who are just accepting an interview without challenging the status quo just a little bit and making people think about what makes you different. So I absolutely feel that it gives you an opportunity to show yourself as a potential asset to that firm by what's happening during the interview process.
Right. Interesting.
You know, people think it's a big deal. I'm going to send my thank you note. Whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-doo. So you're doing something that you were taught to do when you were 8 years old after you got your communion gift. Send a thank you card or thank you email. It's not really a thank you email. This is an opportunity to sell yourself once again. Of course you're going to thank people for their time. It's common courtesy. But this is an opportunity to reset some of the things that happened in that meeting and to maybe add something new that you didn't have a chance to tell them during the interview process.
Yeah.
So you make that communication really something more than that. How about as part of the agenda, if you know more about what the job is really going to entail, you put a short 3-slide PowerPoint presentation together. And when you get a really good question about how you're going to impact the new organization, you say, may I share my screen with you? And you show them a 3-page PowerPoint or a 3-slide PowerPoint that is very pointed and again shows what? Interest. It shows enthusiasm. It shows that you did something. You're not just showing up for a meeting and you're one of the crowd.
Initiative. Yeah. You're trying to stand out from the crowd. Absolutely. So on the other side of that fence, on the other side of that table, these people, you know, if I was to engage with a candidate that was doing things these ways, I would perceive it as being somebody who's going to make my team, our team on this side of the company fence, that much better. I mean, and in the process, I think and we'll maybe touch on this for the next podcast, but in the process, me as the person interviewing you, let's say, I'm looking for you to sell yourself, correct? I know a lot of people don't want to be salesy, but if you're in that situation, you've got to be able to know how to project. You've got to be able to know how to leave the person interviewing with a sales pitch, no?
Yes.
Right?
You don't have to be a salesperson.
Right.
All right. But in essence, sales is really just getting people to do what you want them to do because they want to do it in the first place. Now, the reason that you're in that interview is they've got a hole to fill.
Right.
And either you're going to demonstrate that you are the gap filler or not. So what's your objective personally?
Right.
Now you can buy into, well, we got 5 interview as part of the process and so on and so forth. But if you don't take advantage, it's almost like getting to the Super Bowl. You don't just show up at the Super Bowl, right? You have to qualify for the playoffs. And then you got the big playoff game, and it could be an away game. You've got to take it step by step. And so that first playoff game is your Super Bowl game. And I think far too many people during the interviewing process get sucked into it being a process and not realizing that they're under the spotlight and don't always take it seriously.
Right. They have to win this round to get to the next round, right? I mean, they have to.
And you have to set the expectation in advance. So, for instance, if you understand what the criteria is to being hired for that job, capital J or little j or project or consulting gig or whatever it may be, if you know up front what the criteria is, then you restate it when the meeting starts.
Yeah.
I understand that you're looking, I've read your job description, I've read your annual report, I am prepared and really excited about this interview today. What's it going to take for little old me to win this job? Ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's a chance to show some humility, but at the same time, well, what we're looking for, how deep are you into the process? Who, what, when, where, why, how? So you're now a guest in their office, obviously, and you've been invited in. So you have to be polite,
respectful, sure,
and respectful. But at the same time, this is a business conversation. And in any business conversation, it's a relationship that's going to work or not work. I think both sides deserve some answers.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find that the people in general who are interviewing, are they prepared as they should be, or do you see a lot of haphazardness and laziness occurring?
I don't really think it's any different on either side of the fence. I think human beings are human beings. Either you're prepared and you're focused, or you're not. Okay. So for someone who is now looking at the resume at the last minute, that's not fair to the person that's being interviewed. Yet there's a lot of pressure on organizations to acquire talent. There's a lot of competition for the best talent out there. And people are being put in situations to help with the acquisition process that may not have been trained or have been taken away from a job that they have a deadline for tomorrow. So I don't really think anybody's better or worse, but it does boil down to preparation. And like anything else, you and me are not looking at our phone right now. We're having a conversation about people. And we want to try to help, individuals get what they want in life. There's got to be that focus. And when you're in an interview, it is a two-way street, and there should be nothing more important than trying to determine from both sides whether this marriage is going to work or not. So I don't know. There's some haphazardness, there's some laziness, and there are people who really take the interviewing very, very, very seriously. And whether or not it's their full-time job or not, I mean, obviously in the HR, function, there are processes in place, and thank God for those processes. And when it comes to the functional managers, they also have another job to do. But they're not going to get the job done unless they find the right people.
It's a great point. A lot of the times the people interviewing, especially in a layered process, they may have that's not their daytime job. They may have other, projects, or they do have other projects and deadlines and things and responsibilities and pressure and stress. And this is just something that, so you really, you have that opportunity to jump out. So again, just listening to this, there's, I know we're talking about the side of the fence of the company interviewing today, but it is, like you said, a two-way street. It's a conversation. It's a business discussion. And you really, as the interviewee, have to be prepared, and you have to be able to project and sell yourself. So, what's unique? What are the three things that make me unique? I think these are great things to flush out. So you explained at breakfast this morning. It was really very interesting. You used the analogy of an iceberg, and you explained something I never really thought about. Share us this hidden job market, if you will, with us, if you could.
Well, I didn't create this analogy. Right. I'm not sure who I can give credit to. But an iceberg itself, right? You're seeing only 20 to 30% of the iceberg above the waterline, but it's the 70 to 80% that you're not seeing, right? And you could say if you're on the Titanic, which I think it was yesterday or today was the anniversary of the Titanic.
Is that right?
Yeah. In a positive way, what you're not seeing is really where the gold is. Everything above that waterline is the publicly announced positions and things that companies are looking for that are on the job boards, whether it's Indeed or Monster or Dice or the company's own website, where they, you click on the career site, and these are all the jobs that we're interviewing, that we're hiring for.
Right.
Okay. Or so they say.
Right.
Okay. That is not the hidden job market. That is the market that everyone and their uncle is going after.
Right. Right.
So it may make you feel good to say, oh, that looks like the same exact job I had 2 years ago. I'm going to apply for that job.
Right.
Competition is fierce.
Yeah.
The process can be really murky.
Yeah.
I lowered my voice there.
It's the murky. Yeah.
Murky.
Yeah. So how do people find that hidden job market? And I think you illuminated in your manifesto. I read it and explain what.
We're still using that word, manifesto.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. That
I started it, right?
Yeah. How would you say is the best way? And we've got a lot of it available to us today. What's the best way to to get into that underneath the waterline?
Conversations. It's about conversations. I talk to hundreds and hundreds of people every year that come to me for help when they're looking for work. And I can't stress it enough. It's about conversations. As many as you can have without being a burden on people.
Yeah.
And also in those conversations, try to offer something to the person that you're speaking to. I mean, you don't want to just be a taker. You want some give and take. But most people want to help.
Right.
So the conversations are not about, I'm looking for a job that does this. The conversations are about, I like your opinion. Tell me how you became successful here. What markets might someone look at today? Tell me about healthcare informatics. Are there new jobs being created over vaccine distribution? Is there another pandemic coming our way? And what can I do to help society prepare for it? What's happening in artificial intelligence? And just have conversations with people.
With people in your network? Is that kind of?
I would say within your network. There's a book I need to read. I have a good friend of mine. His name is Kevin Morgan. Kevin? He suggested I read this book by Bob Bodine. And I believe the title is, You Already Know Everybody You Need to Know.
Interesting.
Think about that.
Yeah.
You already know everybody you need to know.
Yeah.
Now, we like meeting new people, but you got to get deeper and wider with those folks that you know from church, with the folks that live in your neighborhood, for ex-colleagues that you haven't spoken to in a number of years. Right? And the best time to look for a job, I hate, the old adage, is when you already have one.
Yeah.
Right? When you're in trouble, that's no good, because you're not going to have the confidence, and you're going to feel as if you're in a more of a desperate state.
Right.
And it's not always about looking for a job. It's about expanding your horizons. And any employer wants to know that the people that they have that are working for them are out there learning about the world, because whatever they're learning about can have benefit to the job that they're in right now. So I don't want a boring person. I want somebody who's out there, who's finding new clients or new business partners or establishing new alliances. So who is not going to encourage you, go out there and have conversations? Yeah. So it is about the conversations.
Yeah.
And so many people would maybe prefer to send their resume to somebody instead of saying, can I buy you a cup of coffee? It's kind of a false sense of security that resume is going to carry the day. What's going to carry the day is you, the interesting person with special skill sets that the person at the other end may want to talk to you about, whether they're a hiring manager or not. So you decompress that person, and you don't put them in a situation to say, I was wondering, are there any positions open at your company?
Yeah.
That's a linear conversation. That's arithmetic. You want to play calculus with people, right? And you want them to play calculus with you. How can I help you?
Yeah.
I love it when a young 20-something offers to buy me lunch. I'll never let them get away with it. But I love it when they show that sort of proactivity, or when they say, so Rick, how can I help you? Right? It's like, wow.
Yeah.
I think differently about that person, right?
Interesting. So you mentioned a part of your heart set is this servant leadership, and so you kind of mentioned. I mean, I'm getting the sense that you really in networking and in exchanging in those conversations. How big of a role does this servant leadership play in networking, if you will?
Well, I guess again, two-way street. Are you mentoring somebody? You really can't mentor somebody unless you know how to be mentored,
yeah,
right?
That's a good point.
So I'm not sure is it about servant leadership?
Yeah, like that young 20-something saying, "Hey, what can I do for you?" That's a very servant leadership type of statement. Like, wow, and you're that's very important to you as an individual. That you're a lot of what you do is built on that. How important is that in the networking process? All in all, do you think?
It's critical. It's about giving. It's about giving, right? I mean, there's a time to take. There's a time to give. I believe that a great way to build up a network is to make those deposits into people's accounts. And random acts of kindness is how some people, associate it with. Just remembering people, just letting them know that they're in your thoughts, whether it's a client, a past. It's like what you and I have been doing. How many times have you and I communicated since you invited me to a podcast last year?
Yeah, quite a few.
Dozens and dozens, and we talked about everything, right? Yeah. So I think servant leadership is really putting the other person first. Yeah. I mean, that's what it boils down to, is just so when a person says, how can I help you, or can I do you a favor? I only want to help that person more because they've got the right attitude.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I want to double down on my efforts to help that individual.
Yeah. Well, and you made a comment about making those deposits, and I know that one of the things that certainly a lot of people can do is to go on LinkedIn, and I know I'm guilty of it. I don't do it enough, but just to go back to some past associates and colleagues and customers and people you've dealt with, and just say, that person impressed me in this way. Let me write them a recommendation. Just pop up one day and they wake up for their morning coffee and, oh, what's this? A recommendation from Jeff Mason. Man, how cool is that, right?
I think I'm going to put it on my resume. I got a lot of recommendations that I've written for people.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've got a lot of recommendations that were written for me. Yeah. But I never want more people writing for me than I've written for them. Yeah. But it's a great way to really just, again, random act of kindness to write for somebody that hasn't heard from you in a while. Maybe it's somebody who's down in the dumps. Maybe you heard that their company folded. Maybe it's just you remembered about how they helped you along a few years ago. Yeah. It's right out there. Yeah. I would say 95% of the time when I write a recommendation for somebody on LinkedIn, it's accepted and it's posted on their LinkedIn profile before I even have it. As soon as I hit the send button, people enjoy that, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and you did it to me, and I probably don't. I definitely don't do it enough, and so okay. Is it fair game if you're a person being interviewed? Do you think to go on to you interview with somebody and their LinkedIn profile to communicate with them on LinkedIn after that interview?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I mean, again, you don't want to overstep bounds, but that's what the messaging app is all about. Right. And if they decided not to respond to you, I mean, that was their decision. Right. I mean, but you don't know unless you try. Yeah. And it is a way to make the connection a little more casually. Yeah. If the person is willing to accept that.
Yeah. Okay. So, have companies ever told you that an applicant disqualified themselves by outright lying? You ever heard that?
Yeah, a couple times. So, never my candidate.
Yeah. But others, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
So what do you think companies wise, I mean, from a company's advantage point, in today's gig economy, what are give us the top three attributes they're looking for in professional capacity employees?
Problem solving. Enthusiasm, team player. Okay. Those are the three off the top. I mean, there are more, but those are the three that popped off. To be a problem solver. Okay. To be enthusiastic about your work. And to be a good team player, to be depended upon. To know when you're going to run that project and when you're going to let another person who may be more capable run the project, and you can be the filler. You can't always be the shortstop or the center fielder on a team or the starting pitcher. Sometimes it's good to be a utility player. Right, and know what your role is, and I think that has a lot to do with being a team player. Where does the team need you today? Okay, and accepting it, and parking your ego at the door, as they say, and accepting the role, and maybe contributing, but not being the author.
Yeah, enthusiasm. How, from a company's point of view, I mean, Do you think that they recognize when somebody's being artificially enthusiastic or disingenuous in their enthusiasm, or is it something that is just when someone's enthusiastic, they just are enthusiastic? What do you think?
No, I think enthusiastic is a positive word, no matter how you put it. No matter how you put it, yeah. I mean, you don't want to be ingratiating. Yeah. But I think enthusiastic to show life, right? Love of life. Yeah. Love of the project, love of your fellow human being or your coworker. I think enthusiasm. Not everyone projects enthusiasm in different ways, right? Someone may stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
finishing a project. I mean, that's not me. I'm fast asleep at 2 a.m. But that's certainly enthusiasm for getting the project over the finish line, or maybe picking up the slack for a few other teammates who didn't do their job that day.
Yeah.
You know, and because you are a night owl and, you know, you have that advantage.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because I know in sales, you know, we were taught early on that you could actually train yourself to be enthusiastic if you didn't have that quality, and you could act enthusiastic to become enthusiastic. And I think that there's this genuine and authenticness that goes hand in hand with that projection of enthusiasm. But to your point, there's a lot of different ways to express it. And I think that love of working with, you know, what you said, I think is excellent, because a company interviewing you is going to be able to tell, hey, this is somebody that wants to do a good job, wants to do it, wants to help other people, and wants to go the extra mile. I mean, okay. So as far as teachability, just a question, do you think the current climate is moving closer to or further away from teachability? In other words, with this gig economy, are they looking for people who are just self-taught, or are they willing to pour the resources into that person to give them skill sets to make the job work?
We were lucky, right? We were given a lot of the training, but I think that they were hiring the kinds of people who were coachable to begin with. And as you know, they were hiring athletes. You played soccer,
Right.
I played baseball and football in high school, and I played ball in college. And they saw, right. So we were blessed because they gave us the tools to succeed and they equipped us. But if we were not of the right mindset,
Yeah.
it would have fallen on deaf ears.
Yeah.
I'm concerned over what I'm seeing over the last year and a half, and people not interacting with other individuals in an open environment, in a traditional office space. It does concern me that training has to be, it can't be as effective as it would be, you know, and maybe I'm just old school. I'm not really seeing that. But having said that, I don't really ever really thought it was up to the company to do the training.
Okay.
I still really think it's a responsibility of an individual. Again, think about the talent out there, the luminaries that we follow. Again, whether it's a ball player or an actor, or, you know, whether it's Tom Cruise or Serena Williams or Beyonce, these people, do they depend on somebody else to get them to be as good at their craft as they can be? Or are they saying, get out of my way, give me the recording studio, I need to practice today? Or does Serena say, you know, my serves were off, I need to practice my serves? Someone at her level, she needs to be told, or a ball player needs to be. So when it comes to corporate America, the whole thing of training, while I totally get it, and I was a product of that, at the end of the day, it's really what you put into it. And if you realize that training and the learning process is lifetime or career time.
Okay. So in this gig economy, then, let's, you know, send the message loud and clear that, hey, we as people, we as workers, we as that commodity, we have to be involved in that self-taught, self-training atmosphere, and bring that to the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And there is, you know, there is just a treasure chest of places to go, and to whether it's LinkedIn Learning or Coursera, or even free training, or taking a class at a local community college, or starting a master group, or a master class, or just a mastermind. You know, take 6 or 8 of the people that you admire most, and put a topic on a table, and be self-educated or you know.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think these are great. So, remote working, you obviously, as you're involved in, you know, helping people get more out of their, you know, treasure chest of credentials. What are you seeing in terms of the flip on company side to looking for remote workers versus a year and a half ago?
Can't put my finger on it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I really can't put my finger on it. I really don't think companies have it totally figured out yet.
Yeah. They're still kind of groping through it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a neighbor down the street, I know his I think 3,100 people have gone completely completely remote. I've heard some other people, I think, there's some kids coming out of college now that get to choose what city they work in, right? And which is kind of cool. And it's not always the office environment like it used to be, right?
My son is in your competitive city up the road there in Chicago for 3 months because he can.
Yeah. Right.
Because he doesn't need to be in an office setting.
How cool.
But I understand they're coming back, and whatever coming back means, we're human beings. We're social creatures, right? We're not working on farms like we used to anymore. We're not sowing the fields. I mean, in order to get the job done, we are relying on one another to move the ball forward.
Yeah, awesome. So let's, what actual industries do you is your specialty for Trent House?
Never, no industry.
Okay.
It's relationships oriented for me.
Okay.
I mean, there was a time in my career when I was in technology sales, the time when I had left Linear, in the 90s and got myself into high-tech sales, where one might be assigned to a particular industry or a particular account or whatever it may be. But this business is very relationship. It's really the people who, need the mentorship, who need the guidance, the advocacy.
Okay. When you're, if you could give some advice, there might be some small companies watching here, some startups that have now gone into, their first or second, third hire, whatever. I just know that I've seen some really alarming practices, and I don't mean to say this in a negative way. I don't know how else to say it, but it's almost like warm body hiring. Interview one person, they're breathing, they speak, they're going to get the job. And I just see a lot of, in my string of working for 35 years, I see a lot of people that I kind of label as, that was probably a bad hire for that position. That was an ill-advised hire. And so now you have these younger companies that are sprouting up. What advice can you give to an entrepreneur who's now branching off into their second, third, fourth, fifth employee? What can they do to avoid a bad hire?
Give me an example. We're talking about a brand new startup or a company that's been in business for 5 years?
Like somebody. I mean, I've just seen I've seen companies interview just one candidate, and they'll say, yeah, here's a job, and they'll get one person in, and you go, how'd the interview go? Oh yeah, they're starting next week. Well, okay, you just interviewed one person. What?
When I'm representing an employer and I've got my executive recruiter hat on, a formula that's always worked for me and my team is 4-3-2-1. So they've got a position that has to be filled. And of course, that's the most important position that needs to be filled at the company today, right?
Right.
A, because I'm working on it.
Right.
And B, because they told me I'm working on it. So I like to be able to provide 4 candidates. Now, I didn't say 4 resumes. That goes without saying, the resumes, but 4 candidates. People who are not only qualified for the job, but if they were offered the position somewhere along the continuum, they would accept it, because I want to be able to provide to the client willing and interested parties.
Okay.
We don't want any, last minute, I'm taking the other job, right?
Yeah.
So provide 4 solid candidates where they agree to speak to 3, they bring 2 in, they hire 1.
Okay. So 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's worked great.
Okay. So there you go.
And I have to train some of my clients to think along that way, because some of them may say, just give me the best person that you have. And of course, you're not increasing the probability very well, because we can't control one person, right? As much as that person, and then maybe a disconnect when you're meeting,
right?
Or they may say, when you have the right individual, send them my way. I like to conduct what I call super days. The Big Four are really good at this; they're very good at making these decisions. But getting the hiring team together in a particular period of time, so because again, it could be a very confusing if you don't put the process in place and you don't help the client along with that decision. Who's available on Tuesday? Who's not available on Wednesday? Well, what'd you think of the candidate? Well, I'll get back to you tomorrow. Did you talk to your boss about him? No, I didn't speak to him yet about it. And all of a sudden, the candidate is now interested in your competition. So a super day pretty much is the mindset. It's a little different today with a lot of the remote working. Is that we're going to present those 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're going to agree with me that a decision will be made within a period of time, 24, 36, 48 hours, when you and the team have had a chance to, commiserate and make your final decisions based on your criteria.
Interesting. Okay, 4, 3, 2, 1. So there you go, folks. So yeah, well, no, I appreciate that because it's just something that really, it's unfortunate. I can't tell you how many, and expensive calamities that I've witnessed in business that have cost businesses millions of dollars, and you just say, look, gosh, it's kind of apparent to me, and it was, you had the wrong person in that position to do that. And, so I think it all comes down to the interview process, getting the right candidate and understand that. So as you're growing, and especially in a small company, gosh, you've got to delegate a lot of important business aspects. And so again, look for self-taught people, but don't just pigeonhole yourself to one interview. And, interesting. So any questions from the company side of the table? And I know the real exciting part of our interview is going to be next week when we get to the actual talent, because that's where I think it really gets fun. But anything I forgot to ask you today as it applies to companies and their role in this?
Well, I like the companies that have a good model for how they are acquiring talent, and they're transparent with how they're doing that. And this goes for the individual talent, but I've also learned that the companies that take talent acquisition seriously are very upfront with how they are making that determination. And they'll actually say to the candidates, when you formulate your answers to questions and when you or doing your research and you're meeting with the team, we would like you to formulate your responses with the STAR method of interviewing, STAR,
okay.
Right? I just really appreciate a company that helps the candidate with the agenda.
Okay, interesting. What's the STAR method, if you can?
It enables the candidate to express his or her experience using the acronym STAR, S for situation, T for task, A for action, and R for result. It's storytelling.
Okay.
You mentioned storyboarding before, right? It's storytelling. So it enables you to compartmentalize a project where you may have had a contribution, or maybe you led the project, to explain that to the listener in a brief, concise, and impactful way.
Okay, interesting.
By explaining the situation, the task at hand, the actions that I or we as a team took, and what the eventual result was. Okay. And you can do that in 30 or 45 seconds.
Okay.
And it helps everyone.
Okay, great, excellent. No, I appreciate that. So, well, very cool. Well, we're gonna have some fun on our next interview talking about talent. So, Rick, what are your LinkedIn and what are your Facebook or website URLs where people can get a hold of you?
Well, the company is www.trinitastalent.com.
Okay.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Rick Diana.
Okay.
And I've got a good number of connections, so I'm sure the first Rick Diana you see will be me. There's probably a few out there.
Okay.
You could, my email address is rdiana@trinitastalent.com.
Okay.
And, if you want to call me, the phone number is on my LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
I don't have to repeat it. It's there. So if you're interested in calling me or even texting me and introducing yourself, that's how I operate.
Okay. Great. Hey, you could be listening to this in 2023 on our show notes on LinkedIn. You will find all of Rick's information associated with this Part A interview, which is episode 86. And then we're going to do episode 87 next week, which is the talent side of the fence. And again, you'll be able to find Rick's information there. So, we definitely are rock and rollers, you and I, and we talk a little bit about, this whole thing that, lost in a shuffle. What is this? It's crazy. I remember I did the Knickerbockers once, and you're like, wait, that's from North Jersey, isn't it? And sure enough, they were from right there in Bergen County, North Jersey, and they were, from there. So I asked you for your selection.
Those are the guys that sounded like the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Time? Not Time.
Oh, I forget the name of the song. Hold on, I'll think of it in a second. So I asked you for your contribution today to Lost in a Shuffle Track, and you picked out a cool David Bowie tune that was redone by somebody that was near and dear to you. Tell us about that, if you could.
Well, this song by David Bowie, I never picked up on it. It's been covered dozens of times. Yeah. But I heard it for the first time around 3 years ago. I was mesmerized by it. It's called The Man Who Saved the World. excuse me, the man who sold the world, and it's a Nirvana cover.
Yeah.
And it was on an MTV acoustic special, like months before Kurt Cobain took his own life.
Yep.
I was almost embarrassed by the fact it's a rock and roller. I wouldn't call myself an aficionado, but a rock and roll fan that I never heard the song.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, when I want to get a little stoked up, I listen to that song and hear the guitar solo by Kurt Cobain. It's just a masterpiece of a song. Now, the David Bowie original is really good.
Yeah.
And Lulu, remember Lulu from the actress from To Sir With Love?
Sure.
She did a cover on this song. Yeah. The Man Who Sold the World.
Yeah. Listen, I'm a rock and roller, and I think I know a lot about this stuff. Well, I don't know how that David Bowie tune passed me by either, but he actually did in 1970 an album by that name, The Man Who Sold the World. And Kurt Cobain is on 1993 on this Unplugged, and he died, in 1994. Really great acoustic version. We're going to put that acoustic version up on the card. So on our YouTube screen, you'll see it up in the upper right-hand corner. They can click on it and listen to it, and the link's in the show notes as well. Great tune. Thank you for that contribution. And guys, we will see you with Rick for next show. And this is going to be really cool because it's all about you. It's all about the talent, what you can do to get better, stronger, more equipped to get those great jobs that may not be on top of the waterline, right? And that iceberg, they may be down there underneath, but you can't see it. So we'll see you next week. And remember, please always respond to all inquiries, follow up, but most importantly, you got to follow through. And perception, that's reality today. So anything you can do to strengthen customer perception, do it, because unfortunately, facts out the window a lot of times. It's all about perception. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, take care.